What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Flex podcast from the Action Network and Fantasy Labs. I'm your host, Chris Raybon. NFL Week 9 is here. This is your NFL Week 9 waiver wire episode, and as always, I'm joined by one of the most accurate fantasy rankers in the game, Sean Kerner, the odds maker. Sean, how's it going? Pretty crazy week this week.
Yeah, well, it was an even number week, so of course I did good. Went 13-4 for like plus 8.5 units. I'm not sure what's going on with these odd even weeks, but I did register the Twitter handle _evensmaker just in case I have to change my name here.
I mean, you had more. You almost had as many units won as Anthony Richardson had completions in 32 attempts.
Yeah,
you only needed half of that. So I think you're doing something right. But we'll jump into the waivers. I just want to remind everyone that all of our fantasy football content on even and odd weeks is available right now over on fantasylabs.com. You can find all of our rankings, projections, and more at fantasylabs.com. And before we get started, I just want to talk about our new partner, DraftKings, that we have teamed up with, and they've got a new way to play fantasy basketball, and you can win some serious cash prizes. It's called DraftKings Pick 6. Sean, you and I both love watching the NBA. This is right up our alley, and here's how it works. You pick 2 to 6 NBA players. You choose if they have more or less of a stat, stuff like points, assists, rebounds, you get it. And it's peer-to-peer. You lock in a lineup, and you compete against opponents for a shot at huge cash prizes. Looking at tonight's NBA slate, I'm thinking Klay Thompson gets more than his point projection of 15.5 versus Minnesota. Sean, what about you?
well, I love projecting assists and diving into tracking data like potential assists, pass rates, things like that. So I have 3 of them for you for tonight. I'm going with Zion Williamson, less than 4.5 assists, Anthony Edwards, more than 5.5 assists, and De'Aaron Fox, less than 5.5 assists.
All right. Well, there you go. Reminder, if you want to play too, you want to download the DraftKings Pick 6 app. And right now, customers can play $5 on their first pick set and get $50 in Pick 6 credits. You just download that DraftKings Pick 6 app and use promo code FLEX6 at sign up. That's FLEX and the number 6 at sign up. All right. Let's get into waiver wire. Week 9. Quarterback. Sean, who do you like?
I'm going to have to go with Matt Stafford here. Looked really good Thursday Night Football, 280 yards, 4 touchdown passes against, a very good Vikings defense. And the reason being, he got both of his top wide receivers back. Both Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua returned. Puka looked amazing. I was shocked he even played, let alone went off like that. So, Matthew Stafford, he's typically in the QB2 range, just given his lack of rushing upside. But with both stud wide receivers back, I think he's on the cusp this week. And he's my QB 13 against the Seahawks. Weather permitting, the weather is pretty nasty there this past week. So assuming the weather there stays in check, I think he's going to be my top streamer this week.
Yeah, good to see Matthew Stafford with his guys back, because that Rams offense is kind of hard to watch without him. It was just hand the ball to Kyron and throwing completions in the red zone. But other side of that game, I'm going to go with the quarterback that we saw in that one, and that's Sam Darnold. I know there's some weather in Minnesota, but it doesn't matter because they play indoors. He's at home going against the Colts. He opens the week as a top 5 quarterback for me. He's got Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. We already knew that, but looks like TJ Hawkinson. He got the long layoff now. He was close to playing each of these last couple of weeks, so it looks like he's going to be back as well. So excited to see this Minnesota offense back to full strength and going against a Colts team that now, starting Joe Flacco, they may actually push the opposition's offense a little more. It's going to be a potentially high-scoring game. Was it the last 2 times these teams played where it was the largest comeback in NFL history? I'm trying to remember if it was. There could be. I mean, we've seen these teams put up fireworks before indoors. So, like Stafford this week, he's available in 53% of leagues, so right on that cusp. But Darnold, but he should not be available. I feel like we've been talking about Sam Darnold every single week almost on either this pod or one of the other fantasy flex pods. So make sure Sam Darnold is on your roster. He's got his full complement of weapons. He should not be sitting on the waiver wire. I know the name Darnold is he's a former Jet. You don't want to be associated with anything Jets. They ruin quarterbacks. I get it, but this dude Darnold has been putting up numbers all year. All right, let's flip it over to running back. Who do you like to pick up on the waiver wire ahead of this week? No real big kind of like obvious ones. So I'm guessing more like stashes, right?
Yeah, it's a slow week. There isn't really a back that's expected to provide like a 1+ week rental. Like Isaac Guerrero might have been, but the 49ers are on a bye, so that gives Jordan Mason time to heal. Christian McCaffrey might be back. So I'm just going to remind people of 3 running back stashes I think you should consider, because these 3 guys, if the starting running back were to go down, they could offer RB1 value. I'm not talking RB3 flex value. I'm talking RB1 value, league-winning upside. Tyler Algier, available in 63% of leagues. Zach Charbonnet, available in 49% of leagues. And Blake Corum, still available in 85% of leagues. Again, he hasn't really gotten a shot to get a spot start because Kyron's been healthy all season. But he's been getting those backup duties the past 2 weeks. So I think it's pretty clear now that if Kyron were to miss time, I think Corum would be, the lead back and offer top 10 upside. So I think right now, with like quiet weeks like this, just, if you have the space, stash as many of these types of running backs as possible. And those are the 3 I think have the most upside.
Yeah, I hear some fire trucks in the background. I think those are our phone lines on fire from people telling us to shut up about Blake Corum already. But
no. We cannot talk about Blake Corum enough. Are you kidding me? Now's probably the time to talk about him because, you can't forget about him.
Oh man, yeah, no, he's definitely a guy that he should be on rosters, but people are just like, why? And I know it's bye weeks, but I mean, you see the way they're using Kyron, and Kyron hasn't really stayed healthy over a full season. So now that Corum has been the straight up backup, they haven't been working Ronnie Rivers in the way they were early in the year. I do think he should be stashed. Last week, I think it was last week. I told people to pick up Tyrone Tracy because I thought that first game against with Singletary back wasn't really indicative of how he was going to perform. And that did work out. Unfortunately, he got a concussion, but you should still have him on your rosters. He put up 145 and a touch. So probably doesn't clear the protocol this week, but if somebody got, silly and maybe just dropped him or he just wasn't picked up because people thought he was going to be kind of like in a split backfield, I would still stash him as well. Looks like he's going to be the unquestioned starter for the Giants going forward. And one other guy I'll mention, Braylon Allen, still available 75% of leagues. For the Jets, he got more involved again last week. It's probably going to be touch and go. But this Jets team is kind of circling the drain at this point. He's a younger back who does have some juice and, went for a touchdown, 12 carries, 32 yards last week. So I think as the season progresses, you might start to see more of him for one reason or another. And they've been giving Breece Hall a lot of touches this year too. So there's always a chance he gets hurt. And then Allen would be in that, RB1 conversation as well. So yeah, unfortunately, no real one week kind of guys, but just a couple stashes. Okay. Wide receiver. I think there's a few more options here. So talk to me.
Yeah. I mean, Cedric Tillman's the no-brainer. I called him out like in our DFS dart throws.
Oh yeah,
the past couple weeks, like, wow. So you're going to talk more in depth about him, but like, I'm just curious when you're talking about him, like how much fab would you be willing to throw on him? And the other 2 are Jalen McMillan of the Bucks, still available in 51% of leagues. He did lead the trio of wide receivers in routes run rate, 90%. He's the wide receiver with big play upside. So I still think he's a fringe wide receiver flex, at least until Mike Evans returns. Then we'll kind of see how things shake out after that. And the Bucks might be a team that's in the market, to trade for a receiver. Who knows? But the other guy is Ricky Pearsall, who's on bye this week, available in 64% of leagues. He looked great in his first 2 games, saw a solid 77% routes run rate. He's going to have to step up with Brandon Ayuk, out for the season. Juwan Jennings should return, hopefully, after the bye. So that could ding Pearsall a bit. But I think they're going to prep him over the bye for, a bigger workload in the second half and try to really incorporate him in the offense. So I think Pearsall's a guy where, if you're in a deeper league and you have a spot to stash a receiver like him, I think he does warrant enough upside in the second half to be a stash.
Yeah, I think the thing with Pearsall is if they're going to use him, is he going to get a 39-yard run every week? Because I don't think he looks that good as a receiver, but he looked good on that run. So that's really what I want out of him. I'm hoping. He probably just needs some time to get up to speed. To answer your question about Tillman, because I think he's the top, obviously top priority guy. Yeah. I'm not a big proponent of spending a lot of fab on wide receivers. So I would say, it depends on your league, but whatever people tend to spend on a kind of a weak running back, I would probably spend no more than that on Tillman. And for a couple of reasons. Number one, there's still a lot of volatility there. People don't realize this, but I was betting on the Browns last week because the Ravens statistically have the worst pass defense in the NFL. Yeah. So, there is going to be some regression at some point. And they're playing the Chargers this week, which I think is a very winnable game for them. But Chargers defense has been their strength. So I think this could be one of those, weeks where the hype is at a peak and you might finally get the regression game. And then, he might even be dropped if he goes 3 catches for 25 yards or something like that. Yeah. So I would still urge caution, but because there are some other options on the wire and receiver just week to week, there's always guys that pop up and then you can kind of play him and then toss him to the curb again. So I still think Jerry Jeudy and Njoku being there, it's not like a slam dunk. If he was the only guy there, I would say, yeah, now you're spending. But I'm always careful with wide receivers because it's still only week 9 and there's going to be more running back carnage. So save some of that fab. But I got another name, might be a little cheaper, if only because he's a less known name. He's a much better name in terms of literal names, and his name is Jalen Coker, and he plays for the Carolina Panthers, who just traded their number 1 receiver, Deontay Johnson, to the Baltimore Ravens. Adam Thielen's been on IR. I think he was 21 day was activated, but this guy Coker's been making plays every week. I think you called him out a couple times. He caught a touchdown pass from Bryce Young. Bryce Young did something successful in the NFL, and Jalen Coker was a part of it. So I'm going to say that he, with a normal quarterback, might be Jerry Rice. So go grab Coker. He's available in a lot more leagues. The Panthers are tanking and having a fire sale, and Xavier Legette is another guy on that team who probably gets a long look. But I think he's rostered in more than half a week. If it's not, I think you take a flyer on him too. But Coker's going to be super cheap. You probably don't even have to bid fab. Maybe after the touchdown you do. But if you can get him for $1 or something like that, I would rather honestly do that than breaking the bank on Tillman, just because I think it's always better unless you're you need a Hail Mary, I think, to just save up for the potential running back when you need it. Tight end, man. National Tight End Day. Before we get into tight end, I got to point this out. So tight ends, if you watch Red Zone, you probably know this or heard somebody talking about it, but it was National Tight End Day in week 8. And it seemed like teams made an effort to really get the ball to tight ends that week. And it resulted in just a boatload of fantasy points, a lot of touchdowns. I think in the early window alone, there was 9 or 10 tight end touchdowns or something crazy like that. They were putting a counter up on Red Zone. So I will say, don't expect that every week. Don't get complacent. It's going to be, the regression is probably going to come. So, you're probably still going to need to pay attention to the tight ends and what we're talking about here. And so that's all I'm going to say about that. We're not out of the woods yet, but Travis Kelce finally got a touchdown. It's good to see Kyle Pitts tried to give away a touchdown. He's Kyle Pitts has so many touchdowns that he's trying to give them away. Imagine that. But with that being said, what are your thoughts on tight end this week?
I'm going to go with your boy Zach Ertz here against the Giants. Zach Ertz has been good this year. I was kind of soured on him because he spent years blocking Dallas Goedert, Trey McBride, this year Ben Sennett. But, he's been rock solid this year. And besides last week, a dumpster fire the position has been, that's been valuable just to know that you're going to get 4 or 5 catches from Zach Ertz. So he has 4 catches in 3 straight games, very high floor. He's a great, bye week fill-in for George Kittle, or if you just want more stability from the position, you're having a rough time. he's a great fill-in for that. He's my tight end 12 to open the week. So again, he's a low end tight end 1 with a high floor.
Yeah, man. Doing this for so long, there's just certain guys that you just kind of know, like a tight end. Every year, I feel like we always, write off some of the older guys, and a lot of times, tight ends just don't really have the same kind of fall off receivers do because they don't need to be quick twitch. So I remember, like, we wrote off guys like Antonio Gates back in the day. He kept performing. Greg Olsen, like, was good way too long. Even a guy like Ben Watson, I remember, had like value at random times back in the day. So I was thinking about all those guys this year, and I'm like, who's that guy? And it just Zach Ertz, and he's still there. He's probably due for a season-ending injury pretty soon. Knock on wood, but I think he's definitely going to provide some stability, especially because Jaden Daniels doesn't really throw many incompletions. So Ertz, most tight ends only get like 4 to 6 targets, but that means like 4 to 5 catches when you're talking about Daniels in that hookup. So I like it. For me, Taysom Hill, he's available in 80% of leagues again, and a few good things. Number one, playing the Panthers. Terrible defense. So this is the perfect game for Taysom Hill to just all the Taysom Hill experiment plays. Number two, he, in his return last week against the Chargers, he played on 38%, 40% of pass plays, ran a route on 38% of dropbacks, and he also had 4 carries. So, this is a player that's going to be doing it all. And he got a couple, I think got a pass attempt or 2. So he's back to kind of being the Taysom Hill that we know. And he's still healthy. He didn't leave this game with an injury as far as we know. So you're going to see some more Taysom Hill blow up games. And he's a guy that I think he's the swing for the fences. If you want stability, it's a guy like Ertz, but Taysom Hill has that top 5 upside at the position. We've seen him do it the last couple of years. Sporadically, so I think he's a good time to add him. And I don't know, 80% of leagues. I guess I get it because he's been hurt, but yeah, he should not be available in that many. Who do you like defense special teams streaming for this week?
I like the Bengals at home against the Raiders. They're available in 68% of leagues, and there's a reason they're available in 68% of leagues. Haven't been great this year, but this is a great spot. Against the Raiders for sacks, turnovers, points allowed. The Raiders have the 6th lowest team total to open the week. And, Minshew was sacked 5 times last week. I think this is a spot where Trey Hendrickson could go off. So this is a week where, the Bengals are way up in my rankings. They're actually, my third defense to open the week, just based on the matchup. So again, use them this week. I don't know who they're playing next week. You'll probably drop them, but they are a good 1-week rental this week at home against the Raiders.
Yeah, no, I got the Bengals in the top 5 as well. I'm going to go with the New Orleans Saints. I know they've been kind of bad at points this year, but still have some talent there, and they're getting the Panthers this week. Let's see. We don't know if we're going to get Andy Dalton back yet, but Andy Dalton threw multiple picks in each of his last 2, thrown 6 picks in his last 4 games, and really hasn't been good outside of that game against those Raiders. So I don't think it really matters at this point who the quarterback is for the Panthers. I think you're going to get some fantasy points here from the Saints. So they're in my top 5 as well. First time in a minute. All right, let's finish it off with kicker. We got same guy again. Talk to me.
Well, you can kick out, we're going to talk about this guy every week until he's available in less than 50% of leagues. So I'll kick it to you this week.
All right, it's Will Reichert again. It's still available in about 80% of leagues. He's my number 1 kicker right now. This Viking Colt game is indoors. The Vikings have one of the highest team totals on the slate, and that's really all you want a kicker. And this guy's not missing kicks, so it's a really good spot once again for Reichert.
Yeah, the latest update is 14 for 14 from the field, 4 for 4 from 50 plus. And 20 for 20 from extra points. So, he's yet to miss a kick in his NFL career.
Yeah, that's like I said, people just they don't. It's like if he don't have the name. He doesn't have the name, and he just continues to be on the wire. I gotta take a kicker that's not
for long.
Look at the Jets. I mean, they would take a kicker that doesn't miss kicks too. But I digress.
They can't have them though. But this isn't gonna last. People are gonna start to catch on to this guy. So add him while you can.
Yeah, probably good guy to have for the playoff run, because again, the Vikings do play indoors. Mm-hmm. So as the winter starts hitting, you're gonna less risk for a weather game. All right, that's going to do it for our NFL Week 9 waivers episode here on the Fantasy Flex. Make sure you subscribe to the pod so you don't miss an episode all season long. FantasyLabs.com is where we house all of our fantasy football content. And don't forget to use promo code FLEX40 for $40 off right now. You can find Sean on X at @_oddsmaker. I'm at Chris Raybon. We're at those same handles on the free award-winning Action Network app. Until next time, let's get this money.